We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Smelling salt to the right nostril both times. And I feel like that was not how I wanted to start this podcast, but here we are.
You got to go first one side, then next one the other side, just to basically clear it out.
Man.
It's like a nice gulp of horseradish.
Oh, I do. I love horseradish.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mike Quinn. Kenny Galladay did not sign with the Cincinnati Bengals, so he owed us a brand new box of salts. And those are first aid only. Those are legit.
These
100 count. Yeah. No, I didn't skimp.
These will take you from a coma if you're.
These look real, man. I'm excited. I'm feeling pretty jacked. And I got to start with this. Draft Guide Giveaway. PFF's final edition of the 2021 NFL Draft Guide is out. Big shout out to you, Andrew Russell, who's the designer of the Draft Guide. Also, David Sofaro works on the data side of it. Editors, Mark DeChester, a ton of names to shout out to get this draft guide up on the site, available to Edge and Elite subscribers, and some of you that leave a review in Apple Podcasts. You leave a review in Apple Podcasts, 5-star review. You leave a review there, mention you want a draft guide, and then send me a screenshot of that review via Twitter DM. My DMs are open. They're wide open. You come through with a screenshot of that review, you enter a chance to win a draft guide. How many am I giving out, Mike? 50% of the DMs I receive. If I get 100 DMs, I'm getting 50 draft guides away. If I get 3,000 DMs, I'm giving 1,500 draft guides away. That's how it's going to work. That's how it happens. So you want a draft guide, DM me a screenshot of your new Apple Star review. It has to come after March 29th. March 29th or after. Can't be an old review. Yeah. No cheating. No cheating the system. Go get it. Other item to bring up.
Don't DM me. DM you.
Don't DM Mike. Mike doesn't answer DMs.
I'll just
only chicks.
Ignore it. Yeah, I mean, unless you're a very attractive profile picture, then maybe I will.
That's why you answered me. Anyway, after draft guide giveaway, the other big item here, and I shit you not, I got over 100, 150 DMs about this.
Okay.
Liv Cowherd, Trey Lance saga continues. Apparently, Colin Cowherd did a mock draft, and he had Trey Lance as the first quarterback off the board, going to the Miami Dolphins at 3. This was obviously before the trade news broke out, and we'll get to that after this. And then when he was breaking down why he chose Trey Lance, he said something along the lines of, "I'm not going to lie to you right now. Trey Lance was at my house last night," or something along those lines. Quinn, I put the clip in the chat. You should throw it up right now.
All right, number 3, the Miami Dolphins are selecting. Colin?
Okay. Trey Lance.
Whoa.
Okay.
Whoa. The first whoa.
Oh, I think he's special.
Okay. You got that off of his 300 passing attempts in college?
By the way, I'm not going to lie. He was at my house 24 hours ago.
Oh, name drop. I love your name. They're so
very
good.
Humble, very gracious. He's got all the right things in life that he cares about.
Everything that you're not.
Yeah. So, whatever.
So that happened. Trey Lance was at Colin Cowherd's house. Why do you think that was, Mike?
I have a good idea why that may be. And it may be because of his daughter, Liv.
Does Liv Cowherd live with Colin Cowherd, though? Or is this like more of a formal meeting?
I'm not that deep in the weeds on this saga.
I'm not either, but I kind of want to be.
But I'm saying I'm back on that show and Trey Lance gets brought up.
Yeah, the bet's off. That's new information I didn't have during the bet. I didn't know Colin was so open about Trey just hanging out the crib.
Yeah, you think Colin gives a shit? No.
I just want to know if Liv lives there with Colin, and Trey Lance was invited over for like a Netflix and chill situation here. I just don't know what's going on there. It's interesting because I wouldn't be surprised if she did. I'm sure Colin has a pretty decent house. I mean, it's hard to leave the nest sometimes, but Trey Lance shot his shot multiple times. But I did some research on this actually. Trey Lance and Liv Cowherd have had a connection since June 2020. Because I Twitter searched Liv Cowherd, Trey Lance because I was trying to find more information. And I found people replying to Liv Cowherd's tweets about, heard you're seeing Trey Lance. So this has been brewing, brother. This is like a long-term thing. They might actually be officially dating at this point.
Interesting. Yeah, probably. That's what it seems like.
Anyway, If Trey Lance goes number 1, number 3, I love Colin Cowherd's rationale. Hey, I met him last night. Stand up, dude. Honestly, it's kind of like me with the interviews.
Yeah, he swayed me.
If any prospects start dating my daughter, I'll probably move him up the board. All right, now let's get to the biggest news, the less joke news here. But San Francisco 49ers get aggressive, trade 2 future first-round picks and a future third-round pick to go up from number 12 to number 3. To get the number 3 overall pick, where we're seeing a lot of speculation on which quarterback they're going to take. We'll get into that conversation as well. The Miami Dolphins come down from 3 to 12 with those 2 first-round picks and the future third, and then immediately trade their 2022 first-round pick, not the ones they got, their own 2022 first-round pick, to go back up from 12 to 6 with the Philadelphia Eagles and get the number 6 overall pick. So Niners go from 12 to 3, Dolphins goes from 3 to 12 to 6, Eagles go from 6 to 12. Let's start with the San Francisco 49ers. Your opinion of them getting uber aggressive, sending obviously 3 future picks, including 2 first rounders, to go up from 12 to 3.
Had to do it. Had to do it. And I think I said it numerous times. It's like they will not be this close to an elite quarterback prospect again. You have Kyle Shanahan as coach. You have a very talented roster. Like the bottom fell out and you got to 12. And you're in a class where there's more quarterback talent than we've seen in our 7 years doing this. Maybe in terms of where they go draft-wise, maybe the highest end we've ever seen. Quarterbacks went 1, 2, 3 only once in the NFL draft. 4 quarterbacks go on the top 10 only once. I think both those are safely to be hit again this upcoming draft. So it is a rare quarterback class. You're not going to be in a position to get one of those guys every single year. So that had to be done from their perspective. They gave up a lot, and now it's just who did they give it up for? Because obviously, I think the report was the Eagles wanted to get in the mix in the quarterback class, but only if it was Zach Wilson, if they were able to get him. And now it seems like everyone and their mother's predicting Zach Wilson to the Jets. That's who they are in on. And so it's Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. Who do they like of that next tier of Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones? I am of the opinion that this could very well be Trey Lance, who they're going for, especially if now they're saying they want to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. But if they realistically are keeping Jimmy Garoppolo, that gives you that high-end tools to work with to plug into Shanahan's offense. Whereas I just cannot see this being Mac Jones. I know why the smoke is there with Mac Jones. Obviously, Chris Sims and Kyle Shanahan are buddies from back in college.
Not just buddies, they have matching tattoos.
Yeah, they are close friends. And
we don't even have matching tattoos.
We're not going to anytime
soon. Come on.
And Chris Sims is super high on Mac Jones, has been banging the table for how good he is. But I just don't think you give up 2 first rounders for a Mac Jones. Does not seem like kind of the way the NFL is going. And Benjamin Solak pointed out this great quote from Kyle Shanahan about his evaluation, how it's changed of the quarterback position. And I'll just read it here. He said, "You start to see you can win football games with any type of quarterback as long as they are good enough, and you can be good enough in hundreds of different ways. So I evaluate quarterbacks in terms of trying to find people who have a chance to be one of those elite type guys, and there's a lot of different ways to do it." Went on to say that you look for a guy who's a 98th percentile or better than 98% of humans on the planet and then work around them. So that to me, like his type in the past has been Matt Ryan, Jimmy G. That's who he's gone for.
Kirk Cousins.
That would suggest Mac Jones, but that quote would also, and the way kind of the NFL is trending, would suggest you maybe can operate with you can work around the toolsy guys nowadays.
A few things there. One, if Mac Jones is in the 98th percentile of human beings, Quinn, you should throw up the picture of him with the cigar shirtless after the Alabama game. If he's in the 90th percentile, I might be pretty damn fucking close. 2, the reports are right now that obviously you have the Chris Sims, Kyle Shanahan connection. Also, Daniel Jeremiah recently said on the podcast with Robert Mays, the Athletic Football Show, that there is a growing understanding in the league that the San Francisco 49ers want Mac Jones at number 3 overall. And the other thing there is that I don't think it's coincidence that this trade broke down on the same day as BYU's Pro Day. I think it was a very good opportunity for like 32 teams to be together in the same spot. Yeah. And I think out of that Pro Day, there were multiple reporters saying the Jets are locked into Zach Wilson number 2. I think that gave John Lynch and the San Francisco 49ers a clear idea of which quarterback's going to be available at 3, and they pulled the trigger. I think that's why you're going to see Trevor Lawrence at 1, Zach Wilson at 2, and then the speculation around reporters is that Mac Jones at 3, but also there's this other understanding that they could go Trey Lance because Jimmy Garoppolo in his contract has a no trade clause. And if you trade for him, you take on that, I think, $23 million cap hit. While as the San Francisco 49ers only take on like $2.5 million in dead money. I don't think I was talking to Brad Spielberger on the Sirius show, and he was saying there's a better chance that he's released than he's traded because teams don't want to trade for that contract.
Yeah.
And they know that the San Francisco 49ers can release him and still not have that dead money on the cap. So it's an interesting situation. I do like what the 49ers did. I love that they're going up, getting aggressive, and grabbing a quarterback. This is a team that's going to be better in 2021 regardless. If Jimmy G starts, whoever. They had one of the worst injury lucks of any team in 2020.
Yeah.
Richard Sherman battling injuries, Nick Bosa, Jimmy Garoppolo, a handful of injuries that just simply aren't going to, the wide receivers too, a handful of injuries that simply aren't going to happen again in 2022. Like injury regression is going to come up for the San Francisco 49ers. And when you're a team that's picking, with between 16 and 20 next year, and what should be, at least right now, a worse quarterback class, the time to get aggressive is now, and you saw that. Now, getting aggressive to go up for Mac Jones, who I would argue isn't in the 98th percentile among human beings on the planet and isn't the third best quarterback in this class, that's where I have that's where I disagree with the decision. I would rather wait for a Mac Jones than go up and trade 2 future first-round picks and a third for Mac Jones.
Yeah, that's just my thing. It's just, it doesn't seem like, I don't want to say there's a Mac Jones comes around every single year, but Trey Lance has a more rare skill set than Mac Jones.
Yep.
Is the way I think is how I would approach that. And Daniel Jeremiah had a good take on this as well, in that you now have Rams and Packers in your conference running similar offenses with guys who are more talented quarterback, more physically talented than Mac Jones. You're going to get through those guys every year. I don't know.
I don't want to be the team.
But I'm just saying, like, you have to, like, the home run ticket that could be what Trey Lance tools are, what Justin Fields tools are, seems like more like that can get you 4 or 5 Super Bowls. Max Jones doesn't seem like that's the upshot there.
You want an example of a team that nearly won a Super Bowl, was very competitive for a season with a middling quarterback that wasn't, at an elite level athlete or had these rare traits, but did it because they had a good defense and these things, and how they've struggled since to build a Super Bowl winning roster, the San Francisco 49ers. They're that exact team. You don't want to try and win with a Jimmy Garoppolo type quarterback where at his peak he is in that 8 to 15 range, not that 1 to 5 range. Yeah. Trey Lance can be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Justin Fields can be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Given what we've seen from Mac Jones, the percent likelihood that he develops into that top 5 transcendent player without the traits of a Fields or a Lance is just so much lower. And I think that's why, again, PFF is going to mock Lance or Fields to San Francisco at 3 overall until the draft. However, maybe Mac Jones ultimately does become that guy. We will have to see.
I do think you'll be a good fit for that offense, though. Like, I do think he'll...
Just not as good of a fit.
But just not like you'll get Jimmy G again.
Yeah. Can't wait. All right, let's jump.
More accurate, Jimmy G.
Let's jump to the second team involved in these trades. You have the Miami Dolphins trading back from 3 to 12, picking up 2 future first rounders and a third rounder, and then quickly making the decision in the same hour to trade from 12 back up to 6. Before we dive into who you think they're going to take at 6 and why they made that decision, what's your opinion of just sending the extra first rounder to go up 6 spots?
Oh, that one, that made no sense. The first trade hit, I was like, okay, the Dolphins had to get out of 3 if they were going to take an offensive lineman or a wide receiver. It made no sense to stay there. The value you could get in a trade was going to far, far, far outweigh any position player you could take there. So, got out of 3, well done. Got a haul for it, great trade. Then to just I think they looked at the decisions in tandem, more being like, oh, we get to move back to 6 and add an extra first rounder, instead of looking at it like, oh, we just had this all-time fleecing. Let's play our cards close to the vest now, and they kind of just gave away that 2022 first rounder. It seemed like I don't just to make sure they got one of these wide receivers. If on draft day the wide receivers start falling, they maybe could get one of those top 3 guys without having to give up a single pick.
Agreed.
Like, that's a very realistic scenario that one of Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, probably not Jamar Chase, is sitting there staring you in the face at number 12 overall. And yeah, now you're assuredly going to get one of them, Kyle Pitts, whoever it may be, I would think. But that seems like, and if you were going to execute that trade, it's just you'd get better value on draft day than you did giving up a future first rounder right now. So that one was a bit of a head scratcher, but still, I think the net was a huge positive for them.
I really agree with that. I don't think you should. Anytime you're trading a future first-round pick for a non-quarterback, like going up and getting a non-quarterback, which they essentially are, unless maybe they're after the fifth best quarterback in this class at 6, which I highly doubt. Obviously, highly doubt they would have stayed at 3 if they were even in the quarterback market. But to go up to make sure they get their guy. Again, this is, I think, an example of being a little bit overconfident in your evaluation. We want to make sure we get Devontae Smith. We want to make sure we get Jamar Chase. It's like, hey, there are 3 really, really good receivers in this class. And even if you take a step back and look at Rashad Bateman or Elijah Moore, these guys later, Terrace Marshall, you don't have to give up future first rounders for your guy. There's a very good chance that the receivers drafted in the first round, multiple of them, either guys that fall to day 2, are more productive out of the gate.
That's the thing. And especially for a wide receiver, which is what they're going up and getting, where you've seen guys late in the first round, mid of the second round, come in and be elite, like elite wide receivers like that. It's not one that it's a super scarce position, especially early on in the draft. Maybe you get to rounds 3 or 4, it dries up. The guys that they know are good receiving talents still go early-ish. But I think recent history has definitely shown you can find one outside of the top 10 picks. You don't need number 6 overall to make sure you get a good wide receiver. So that one, a head scratcher for me. But from the Eagles' perspective, wow, what a hell of a trade.
Yes.
That Week 17 loss just got them a first-round pick. When people talking about, why tank, it's only 3 spots. They don't get that extra first-round pick if it's only 3 spot. If they're sitting at 9 instead of 6. So, hey, well done by Howie Roseman on that one.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles, that was an easy win for them, especially if they're looking to commit, at least for now, to Jalen Hurts, adding that future first-round pick, coming down and still very likely either getting the number 1 or number 2 cornerback in this class, whether that's Horn or Surtain, or getting one of those big receivers, getting a Waddle or a Devontae Smith. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic stuff. I think it was win-win-win for all 3 teams. I think the only loss of my least favorite trade or move was the Dolphins going back from 12 to 6. I think other big losers in this, and we'll finish with this and dive into the defensive line overview. Carolina Panthers, big losers. Now they're sitting at 8, and they can't trade up to 4, most likely, because the Atlanta Falcons aren't going to give them a quarterback or give them that opportunity to come up. So I think the Carolina Panthers are big losers, and another sneaky loser, Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell was rumored to be like a potential number 3 overall pick, and now you see maybe the Cincinnati Bengals are locking into a Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts because Joe Burrow didn't take Riley Reif to dinner and convince him to sign. I think he wanted to do that because he's also banging the table for the front office to go get a pass catcher. It's like, hey, if I can get Riley Reif to sign here, and then I can convince them, hey, we don't need an offensive tackle. Let's go get my guy Chase or my guy Pitts, or it's not his guy yet, but it could be. But I do think that you could see Penei Sewell drop outside the top 5. And then you have the Miami Dolphins there sitting at 6, who obviously want a wide receiver, have already drafted a first-round offensive tackle, Austin Jackson. They passed on him. In my latest mock draft for PFF.com, which we'll get into on the Wednesday episode, I have him fallen to 7 for the Detroit Lions, which obviously it's not a catastrophic fall, but that's millions of dollars. Yeah. Like that's a millions of dollar loss for Penei Sewell. Do you think the Detroit Lions are a fit for Penei Sewell at 7, or where do you think he ultimately comes off the board now?
I think the Lions would be hard-pressed to pass Penei Sewell with Dan Campbell assuming he wants to build through the trenches. Yes. And just like they could use a tackle also. You got Tyrell Crosby or a Big V starting at right tackle. That's not Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
That ain't close. And then you'd have Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell. That's one heck of an offensive tackle combo to start your franchise off.
The other thought there is, say, if they pass on Penei Sewell and go after Micah Parsons or something, you could see Dan Campbell go in that direction. The other spot I thought made sense is Denver Broncos at 9. Even though they did just pay Garrett Bowles and Juwan James is supposedly coming back from the opt-out, it's like, do you let Penei Sewell fall past 9? Like at a certain point, he's just too good of a prospect to pass up.
He'll come off the board. If he falls past the lines, I would be absolutely floored.
Again, and it kind of continues to underline why did the Miami Dolphins trade up to 6? Because you have a lot of these guys that are going to get fit in. If Mac Jones goes at 3, which again, the league is suspecting that. A lot of the league, according to Daniel Jeremiah, is suspecting the Niners want Mac Jones at 3. We could see 5 quarterbacks go in the first 5-6 picks. At least 5 by Carolina's pick at 8.
Yeah.
And that's if Denver doesn't trade up from 9 or New England doesn't trade up from 15 to go get a guy. Like you could see 5 quarterbacks go. Penei Sewell has to come off the board. Kyle Pitts has to come off the board. At a certain point, there's just not enough picks for all the receivers to come off. So again, I just don't understand why the Miami Dolphins did that. I loved the initial trade, didn't love what they did with that first rounder to go back up to 6. All right, you ready to get into the defensive line here?
Yeah, let's do the defensive line class.
You could talk about these trades all day long. I mean, they heavily impact what the 2021 NFL draft is going to look like. What do the Falcons do at 4 now? What do the Bengals do at 5? It's an interesting conversation. We'll get more into it maybe when we talk about my mock draft on Wednesday. All right, defensive line overview. To start here, The edge class, very good. However, not a Chase Young in this class. It's an interesting class in that there are a lot of talented edge defenders, but a lot of them are projects, guys that maybe won't be out of the gate outstanding. And then you look at the defensive tackle class, there's one really talented player, and then it falls off kind of off a cliff, and there's not a lot of like day one starters at the defensive tackle position, at least high-end starters at the defensive tackle position in this class. So let's start with edge and give me your overview of the class.
Yeah, let's kick it off. So there's 7 edge guys on the PFF draft board between 22 and 44.
Wow.
That's where there's just a group of guys who are in that range. Shit, you don't know. Like that's a very uncertain range. And I've said, I'm not sure I want to be the guy that takes an edge rusher first, because 20 picks later, you'll be getting a guy that's very similarly talented, but just because that's kind of where the edge class falls. So Kwity Paye is still tops on our board, Michigan edge defender. We didn't get to see the cone at his pro day.
Hamstring tweaked up or something.
Yeah, something like that. But he's still, what did he put up, 30-something reps on the bench? He still showed out. It was still pretty freaky what Kwity Paye did. He is just explosive, twitched up, ideal sort of physical tools that you don't have to have much more. And we've already seen him. The biggest thing and why he is edge one for us is the massive year-on-year growth. You go back and watch maybe like 2018 film, and he's just no feel for defensive line whatsoever in terms of taking on blocks, pass rushing moves, bottom of the barrel. This past year, completely different. Like only 4 games, but legitimately took over games at times. The Minnesota game, unblockable. So I think that sort of progression is easy to buy in on when he is that freaky. He is Chase Young levels of athletic freak and what he brings to the table. So
he's just not Chase Young levels of polish.
He's just not Chase Young levels of polish. So I trust he can get there with what he is. And now talk about Chase Young levels of freaky. This guy might be the second edge on our list, might be the freakiest edge rusher ever. His pro day, Jason Oweh's pro day, Penn State edge defender, was the freakiest pro day I think I've ever seen. 4.39, 39.5-inch vertical, 11.1 broad jump, and a sub 7.3 cone.
At over 250 pounds.
At over 250 pounds. Those are out of this world numbers. And has the size, the length, the whatever you want for the position. The biggest pro here in the draft, guys, is juice. Evident every single snap. Biggest con, though, is passiveness. He does not attack, even the way Kwity Paye attacks. Like, he is not going at it every single snap. There's some just kind of, he looks like a former basketball player. Like, he was a basketball player until 2016. That's when he started playing football. That's when he started playing football. It's just kind of, the physical part of the game is not quite there yet for him. But another guy who it's a lot better than it was last year. His run defense grade improved by over 30 points from 2019 to 2020. Still, the thing is, in this entire edge class, though, they're all massive works in progress, except for maybe Azeez Ojulari, who's next up on this list. So if you're all massive, like all need a lot of work, I'm going to go with the guys who have the most ideal physical tools. And that is, in my opinion, Kwity Paye, then Jason Oweh. Phillips probably a third on that list. And then Russo fourth. That's Jalen Phillips, Miami, Russo of Miami. Those guys have their pro today. We'll get some numbers on them. But
I have some measurements if you want them.
Oh, do you?
For Russo and Phillips.
Let's get them.
All right, so some of the crazy ones. Russo came in at 6'6", 266, 11-inch hands. Those are some freaking mitts.
Damn, Lord. Joe Burrow is just jealous as hell.
11-inch hands. All right, then he had 34 and 3/4-inch arms, massive, and 83 and 1/4-inch wing.
That's insane.
And then for Jalen Phillips, 6'5", 260, 9 and 3/4-inch hands, a little small. And then arm is 33 and 1/4, wing 80 and 3/4. Those are some nice length.
Big boys.
That's length, man.
You would know. But yeah, so those guys are 4th and 5th on this. Azeez Ojulari, though, 3rd. Georgia edge defender, the only one who actually rushed the passer at an elite level last year. 91.7 pass rushing grade. We saw him just, when he went up against bad tackles, they couldn't block him.
Yep.
If he would have just unblockable in that Cincinnati game down the stretch. His cornering, his hand usage, all pluses. Biggest con, though, not particularly strong. Does not not threatened with the bull rush. He's not going to go through offensive tackles. He's got to go around them. And it's a difficult game to win consistently. You see a lot of guys in that sort of mold be inconsistent, up and down sort of edge rush. Brian Burns has done it at the NFL level, but even him, when he goes up against good left tackles, a lot of times over the past couple of years, like he'll get shut down just because
he doesn't have that bull.
Yeah, because there's only a couple ways you can win. And offensive tackles in the NFL, the athletic aspect of it, the mirroring, being able to stay and maintain a relationship, guys do that at the NFL level. You got to have a number of ways to beat them.
At least
you can't
two.
Just survive. You can't just survive off of, hey, I'm this high-level athlete. Especially when Ojulari's testing was good, nowhere near even Brian Burns' range of athletics. So that's the worry with him. Undersized. He's going to have to be perfect. I see him more as like I said, Yannick Ngakoue is the comp in the draft guide, and he's a little bit better of a lot better of a run defender. But that's who I kind of see him as at the next level.
Somewhat undersized, 6'2", 250, but he's got 3'4" and 3/8" arms.
Yeah,
like those. He's got an 82 4.8 wing. Like, I mean, that's for a 6'2", that's very good for Azeez Ojulari.
Those are. So he's third, and all these guys are like I said, these guys are all. I think they're all 20 to 25 on the draft board.
It's a blend, man. It's tough.
It's tough.
And you said this before we started recording, but I love this quote. It's that I don't want to be the team that takes the first edge off the board. Because this is one where like, man, if Jalen Phillips falls to you or Owe falls to you, you feel so good. But if you're the first one to swing and you're like, I'm definitively saying Kwity Paye is the best one, it's going to be tough. Like, because a lot of these guys, it's going to be very dependent on usage, situation, health, development. Defensive line coaches are going to have to work wonders with Owe and Rousseau and even Phillips and Paye. Like, all these guys are going to need better pass rush moves in the NFL. Azeez Ojulari is the only one who has like a legitimate like star move. His cross chop is beautiful on the outside, but he still needs to develop a counter. Like these edge guys, if you want a Chase Young, it's not coming.
Yeah.
It could be, there might be a Chase Young in this class, but he won't show up till year 2, year 3.
Yeah. Jalen Phillips, 4th on the edge list. These guys are all still day one guys. His pop on contact, just his play strength. He's got it. Worry about him. Obviously, the concussions we've talked about a bunch. Also, he only faced right tackles. He only faced the lesser tackles at the college level. That's somewhat meaningful. So for him to have only an 87.6 pass rushing grade when he was only going up against the right tackles, when Quincy Roche was going up against left tackles, that's just, it's easier. You're having the easier role. You're going up against guys. There's not a lot of right tackles in college that end up playing in the NFL. So that's the biggest thing with him. Up next, Greg Rousseau, Miami. I mean, the 16 sacks. Pass rushing grade did not match that. Only a pass rushing grade just over 80 last year because he legitimately struggles to win against offensive tackles. His pass rush plan, he wins on contact, a lot of swim moves on the interior against guards, or he really doesn't have much else. Still super raw. The frame, the tools, there's a lot to work with. The bend for a guy his size, all pretty special. But a guy where his pass rushing grade was, I think, below 75 against offensive tackles on the outside last year. That's just not good. Like, that's just, if you're going to have to, I think we've seen it with Jadeveon Clowney, and I think he's a different type of body type. I think he can feasibly get there. Jadeveon Clowney is a little stiff and doesn't necessarily have the bend where he had to go on the inside to be productive. But I think we've seen it with Jadeveon Clowney when Houston really put him in that joker role and had him going all over up and down the line of scrimmage. That was when he had his best years. When he was just put at base end, the pass rushing productivity is just not there. And I think that could be what you see from a guy like Rousseau.
I agree. And I mentioned to you and Steve Palazzolo about Greg Rousseau's comp, not maybe from an athleticism standpoint being Jadeveon Clowney, but usage. I could see Rousseau being used very similar to how the Houston Texans use Jadeveon Clowney, not necessarily in his prime, but when he was most productive. When he was most productive, they were moving him head up over the center, head up over the guards, moving up and down, never had his hand on the line of scrimmage, never in the same spot twice. And that's when you saw Clowney actually look like a top 10, top 15 type of pick. Ever since then, if you traditionally play him as like a 4-3 end, it's just not going to work. Like, he has not had that level of success on the edge. Very interesting to look at. Jadeveon Clowney is that number 1 overall pick over Khalil Mack a few years ago, and him just not being anywhere near the same player that Khalil Mack has been. All right, now you want to jump to day 2.
Day 2. So those guys, those 5, I feel you draft one of those 5 on day 1. Good, solid. Got a good player. Carlos Basham kicks off day 2 here. The Wake Forest edge defender, a little different than any of the guys in this class, in that real power and 280 pounds, 6'4", 6'5", in that range, where a little versatile. You can put this guy inside if you want. Inside, outside versatility. He was number 2 on Bruce Feldman's Freaks list last year. And his biggest selling point is his agility at that size. He had a 4.1 something, 4.15, I want to say, short shuttle at 280 pounds is special, and combined with his explosiveness, but he almost relies on it too much. He does not want to play physical. He does not want to go through guys. He wants to go around them. And at 280 pounds, man, just with his get off, just start bullying guys. You didn't see that enough on his tape to where he went from a pass rushing grade over 90 last year to 76 this past season. That's a downgrade, and they tried to use him in a more versatile role instead of just lining up over left tackles like he did in 2019, and did not quite work out. So those are kind of the worries with him. I did think he looked good on the inside, though, rushing the passer at the Senior Bowl. So still feel good about him. Top of day 2. Could outperform even that draft slot.
I'm interested to see how teams view him and how they view his kind of positional versatility. I talked to him on the podcast, and he said, a lot of teams see me as an edge, but a lot of people want to kick me inside and do different things. So I do think that when you look at him and then another guy I put in that same tier, Peyton Turner of Houston, those two guys, I feel like you could move them inside and they could have a little bit of success as those multi-gap versatile type of defensive players.
Yeah.
I gave Peyton Turner in my latest mock to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who all Steelers fans want to kill me because I gave them 2 defensive linemen when they already have TJ Watt. But I do think that Peyton Turner doesn't have to come in and replace what they hope Alex Highsmith will be in year 2. I think he could come in and he can kick on the inside and be very productive. And again, it comes back to when you're doing these mock drafts, specifically when a PFF person is doing them, or me, I'm looking to get better at high-priced market value positions a lot. Mm-hmm. And you can do that. The Pittsburgh Steelers could do that. I had them taking Gregory Rousseau and Peyton Turner. Get better along the defensive line. It's how they won the previous years. And I think getting cheaper there when you're going to have to pay TJ Watt in the future, when you're going to have to pay Chase Claypool or maybe Deontay Johnson, getting cheaper at those market-priced positions is smart. And I think Peyton Turner is a good fit for Pittsburgh. But we skipped Ronnie P.
Yeah, how do we get on Peyton Turner there?
Sorry.
Ronnie Perkins, Oklahoma.
I think Basham and Turner are going to be used similarly. That was the connection.
Ronnie Perkins, Oklahoma edge defender. He's on the smaller side too at 6'2", 253, but I don't have any really worry about this guy in run defense. He's a real strong run defender. Upper body strength is a plus for him despite his size. Or not a plus for him despite his size. It is good despite his size. I think he can hold up in that regard. Bull rusher, one of the best in this class, already well versed in that regard, in that he can long arm you to death if he does, and will, oftentimes on his tape at Oklahoma. The testing wasn't as good as I had hoped. 4.7 40, only a 9.7 broad jump, 32-inch vertical, 25 bench press reps. It was just solid, not excellent. I was hoping he would be putting himself in that tier of these other guys, freaky edge defenders in this draft class, but that's still, for an edge rusher, that can definitely get by at the next level. So I just wish we would have seen him more on tape. Only 6 games this past year. Didn't play a lot. Had started 2 years, but this year was when he really turned it on, and would have liked if he had come back to school. Probably could have made his way into the first round next year.
All right, jumping to Joseph Asai of Texas.
Oh yeah, and Peyton Turner, one of our favorites in the draft class, was dominant. But he said similar body type to Carlos Basham, long arms, 270 plus pounds, Houston edge defender. Again, another guy we didn't get to see a ton of, only 4 games this past year, but he showed enough in that, and he beat up some all right tackles, and then looked good, not great at the Senior Bowl. So Joseph Asai is the one I go back and forth on. He had a 41.5-inch vertical at his pro day, gets off the line really well, high motor guy, high effort guy, just cannot set a hard edge, does not have much power to him despite that explosiveness, despite that leaping ability. But he is relatively new to rushing the passer full time. Only did it this past year. Was an off-ball hybrid the year prior where he'd rush and drop into coverage about an equal amount. So it's just an underdeveloped guy from a technical standpoint. I think he will be coveted by teams that do a lot of true 3-4 stuff, where they got edge guys dropping into coverage, because he can do that. That is his best role, in my opinion. Stunts, not necessarily going one-on-one all the time, straight off the edge.
I think that I would take It depends on your scheme. I think it's not as simple as take the best edge defender available. Joseph Ossai is here. We're going to take him. I definitely think there are going to be teams that covet guys you have lower here, like Rashad Weaver, maybe Patrick Johnson, some of these other guys over a Joseph Ossai, depending on the scheme they do run.
Yeah, he's not going to be for everybody. That's for sure. Like when the Chiefs got rid of D Ford, that's Ossai's a similar player. You got to keep him way on the outside. He's got to be a rush from a wide 9 or hand up. He's not going to go head up on a tight end and ask him to play the run. He'll get still owned by tight ends is a possibility. So,
he also had that tape against Tevin Jenkins that was also horrendous.
So Rashad Weaver, Pitt edge defenders next. Long, 6'5", uses his hands exceptionally well. It's just a below average athlete for the edge. Now, there's different ways to win. So like we said with AJ Epinesa last year, if you're just winning with pure power and that's who you are, you can win at the NFL level. Like we saw Epinesa give Slater more trouble than Chase Young did. And I think he looked all right as a rookie too. Epinesa did. There is a path to success. It's just such an athletic-based position that I'll take the guy with explosiveness higher. So he's very good with his hands. A lot of strength, a lot of play strength, a every down sort of run defender in a 4-3 defense. That's Rashad Weaver. Next up on the list, Joe Tryon.
Before you jump off of Weaver, he also had really good change of direction testing. His short shuttle and cone were all up in like the 80th percentile. He had a lot of success from a bend perspective on those drills.
Joe Tryon up next. Is it a sub 7.3 cone? Because you know I love a sub 7.3.
I think it might have been a sub 7.
Well, let's go look up if you had sub 7.3 cone.
I'll get in there.
I'm guessing you didn't. We did. He had 6.97.
Yeah, he's out there grinding.
That is nice. You love to see that. That's the bend you love to see. So that's a past success. But 4.88 40 at 259 pounds, it's not good.
Yeah,
that's not good.
The explosiveness wasn't there, but the bend. It's kind of like Curtis Weaver a little bit. Remember Curtis Weaver? Not near
Curtis
the
Weaver
same
sub 7.3 cone
build. I think Curtis Weaver had a little bit more
stubby arms,
baby fat on him, but I think similar in that he could bend it like a motherfucker.
Joe Tryon up next, the Washington edge defender. Not productive. That's not why you're buying in Joe Tryon. You're buying him for the reps where he stands up Penei Sewell. You're buying him for the reps where he bull rushes right through an offensive tackle at 6'5", 260 with legit explosiveness. That's what you're buying into, is that guy can become something more. But man, talk about some of these other guys being wrong. He was 71.9 pass rushing grade back in 2019 before opting out this past year. And he's a little bit stiff. He is a pure straight line sort of edge rusher. Doesn't use his hands exceptionally well. That's a project to me. That's why he's late day 2. And then you got the Tulane duo, two of my favorite sort of late rounders, or not, they might go late round, small school guys. Cam Sample, Tulane, highest grade in the 101s at Senior Bowl.
Lit it up at the Senior Bowl.
Exceptional. This plays super low, is so strong. The guy can 280 pounds, but I think he can even play 3 technique if you want him to. Love his tape. And then Patrick Johnson's the guy who I really didn't get around to him, really watching in depth more. And he had a pass rusher grade until over the past month here. Until recently, he was going to be a Senior Bowl invite, got hurt. His hands are exceptional and quick as can be. Some of the best hands in the draft class. He's had a pass rushing grade. He had a pass rushing grade over 90 as a sophomore back in 2018. In true passing situations, he is the highest graded pass rusher over the past 3 years of college football. The guy, he's not a high end athlete. Doesn't have great bend, but man, I think he is my favorite sort of, if I'm just pure pass rusher outside of, kind of like the top group of guys, kind of like the underrated, he's probably going to go day 3. He's probably my favorite in that mold. Kind of like, I don't know, Trey Hendrickson when he was coming out. I love Trey Hendrickson coming out of, FAU, one of those two. That's kind of how I feel about Patrick Johnson.
Did you love him enough to give him $15 million a year?
No, not that much.
Not that much.
Sorry, Trey.
How interchangeable are these day 2 guys are for you? Because I know you say day 1, you obviously have a ranking, but they could go anyway. How about day 2? Is there like a clear line or a clear drop off here? Or
day 2 is more these guys. So I think Basham, Perkins are in there. Those 2 guys are the closest to day 1. Then after that, it's more what are you looking for?
True.
I think there's then those guys are from Peyton Turner, Joseph Ossai, Rashad Weaver, Joe Tryon, Cam Sample, Patrick Johnson. What type of what type of pass rush are you looking for? What was your scheme looking for? That's kind of the decision between those guys.
All right, jumping to day 3 here, a whole host of names, and then we'll get to the defensive tackle class.
You want to just rattle through those bad boys, then I'll just name some guys I like from that.
Okay. Dayo Odeyingbo. Am I pronouncing that right?
I think it's Dayo.
Dayo Odeyingbo. Is that the Notre Dame guy?
Vanderbilt.
Joshua Kando, Florida State. Chauncey Golston, Iowa. Darius Robinson, Florida State. Chris Rump, Duke. Ellerson Smith,
Northern Iowa.
Jonathan Cooper, Ohio State. Jordan Smith, UAB. Patrick Jones of Pittsburgh. And then Dalen Hayes, Notre Dame.
He is the Notre Dame guy.
That's right. I miss Dayo and Dalen all the time.
We need to turn it into a game where every time you guess one of these correct, we give you something.
A smelling salt. Or when I get it wrong, I have to take a smelling salt.
How's a whole one? Right. You have to inhale until it completely is done.
Okay.
That'll be if you get one wrong.
All right. Which names do you like on this?
Janarius Robinson and Chauncey Golston and Joshua Kando are the most intriguing ones here to me because they have the kind of the physical size, length, power, whatever, like that body type that can win. It's really haven't won much though. Like it hasn't actually happened on a football field yet. The other guys have, like Chris Rump from Duke, undersized. You're gonna have to have a roll from them. Ellerson Smith and Jordan Smith are super thin. Don't play with power. They're probably DPRs. Dayo Odeyingbo has the Achilles. But those three are kind of, they have the physical ability. It's just, can you coach them up? I don't think they're special in terms of like explosiveness though. They're kind of just like solid athletes, but have that body type that like it makes your life a lot easier at the NFL level. So those are the three I would highlight from that group.
Not even Chris Rumph, PFF darling.
PFF darling, but goddamn, he can't get his weight to like a range that's even close to rushing the passer. He's 230 last year and looked slowed, like he had slowed down from 2019 when he was like 220.
Jordan Smith also is an interesting player out of UAB. He's had some success there. I think he was pretty good.
Stick, that guy though, and anyone gets his hands on him, like he is just play strength is low, and that's a tough sell again at the NFL level.
Oh, right there. Are you looking at Charles Snowden then as an off-ball linebacker type?
Yeah, Charles Snowden I think is off-ball.
Okay. All right. Before we jump to defensive tackles, can I have a little break, little segment here? Daniel Jeremiah just tweeted this out, and I kind of want your take on it. It's kind of dominating Twitter right now. Interesting to insert Sam Darnold's availability into this draft class. Obviously, that will determine what the Jets do at pick 2. For me, he would be 3rd. His rankings, with Sam Darnold included, are Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, then Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, then Mac Jones. However, let's say this now. I think he's looking at him purely as prospects, and he's throwing the fact that Sam Darnold has a contract looming and is not going to be cheap like these other guys are. I think let's just safely say he's throwing that out.
Has to be.
Are you still, and I don't know if he's doing them as prospects or he's saying, even after I've seen the 3 years of Sam Darnold in the NFL, I'm still putting him ahead of a Lance, Fields, and Jones.
He has to be looking at them as prospects. Just because I don't want to say like DJ hasn't like studied them in depth, but I don't think you don't study guys in the NFL like you do college prospects. I think he's still basing that off of, this was my eval of them coming out. I think he's a better prospect than Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones. So which is completely off base. I don't think he's saying, it's just weird because he phrases it with interesting to insert Sam Darnold's availability. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, okay, I still don't think you take Sam Darnold and the contract situation you're getting with Sam Darnold, knowing what he's done in the NFL, over those 3 other guys, or else people would be clamoring to trade one of their first round picks for him. Yeah, you'd be absolutely insane to do so.
Fair enough. All right, let's jump to the defensive staff class. Only one guy worth a day 1 pick, and it's Christian Barmore of Alabama.
Yeah. Barmore is a dude, man. I get that you can shit on this DT class, but don't shit on Christian Barmore. That guy can play ball.
Is that a social graphic?
Don't shit on Christian Barmore. We need to send that to Odell.
Easy.
But just to watch this game tape against Notre Dame and Ohio State. 2 offensive lines that are putting multiple NFLers on that interior, and what he did to each of them. Just every single play. Dominant. Unblockable. And that's for a guy who is, like I said, only a redshirt sophomore, who is 6'4", 310, long arms, has the NFL DT prototype kind of body. And I have his biggest pro here as being his bend. Like, he's a flexible, you can get off low and play low for a defensive tackle. if you watch like certain games, he's not a down-to-down consistency was not there. The game-to-game consistency was not there. His high end, what he could do, and when the lights shine the brightest, he was awesome, absolutely awesome. So he is a day one guy, the best defensive line prospect in this draft class, in my opinion.
Who is a fit for them? Who's a fit for Christian Barmore?
He's not. That's why I said ideal DT body because he can play whatever.
Taking him off the board. What team do you think?
I said the Titans was a good fit. I thought the Vikings could be in play for him before they obviously signed Dalvin Tomlinson. So I like Titans at 22, 21, something like that. That'd be great.
All right. I had the Browns taking Christian Barmore at the back end of the first. All right. Let's jump now to
even like Arizona. They could use a DT. He's good. So day 2, Aleem McNeil, NC State DT, the highest graded defensive tackle against the run in the Power 5 this past year. I think actually it might have been college football this past year. He is, we talked to him, a freak. Like the guy gets off the line of scrimmage like lightning at 340 pounds last year. You couldn't even tell he's 340 pounds because he moved like a normal defensive tackle. And what he did as a one tech, like improved so much, I thought, from 2019 to 2020 in terms of just being able to hold the point of attack. Obviously, some of that may have come with him being 340 pounds. But that guy was immovable by double teams this past year. Does not have pass rushing moves, though. You're going to have to teach him that. But I think he has the ability to play low. And with his physical tools, he only needs a bull rush. That can be what he does. He can be your pocket pushing nose tackle, and he can be good at it. So I bet on a guy like Aleem McNeil, again, only a true junior, young guy coming out at defense tackle. I am a fan of his game.
Multi-sport athlete in high school, hit bombs for the baseball team, played running back and linebacker in Raleigh. It's chose NC State over Bama among other SEC powerhouses. And I still think despite he's a bigger dude, he can. You have his pro in the draft guys, his explosiveness at his side. He can win early in the snap as a pass rusher. He can get on you if he's playing the true zero. The amount of pass rush wins he got playing true zero was really, really impressive. And I think it speaks to him being able to win as a pass rusher in legitimately a phone booth. I really like Aleem McNeil. And if you're getting him on day 2, top of day 2, I'm sprinting the card in, especially if you do have a defense where you're playing that zero tech.
Yep. All right. Next up is Marvin Wilson, Florida State. Biggest pro in the draft, guys, is power. Biggest con is his burst. He's a strong upper body, kind of a block controller, fights to the end of every rep with his hands. He will continue to try to work the pocket. But man, the tape this past year was just not great. It just wasn't.
It's bad.
He's not particularly quick. He's not particularly agile. And he's just going to be he's just going to be he's just going to be a solid all-around defensive tackle. I don't think you're just not getting that caliber of athlete, though, sadly.
Unfortunate. How the mighty have fallen. I think the best thing you've said about Marvin Wilson is just this is the difference between traits versus production. If you're going to be not an elite tiered athlete, you better be productive all the time.
Elite tier production.
Yeah, you're going to have to be productive all the time. All right, next guy here.
Next guy is UCLA's Osa Odigizua. I'm a big fan of what he can bring to the table as a run defender and what he could be as a pass rusher. One of the better athletes at the position in this draft class, only 282 pounds, but he has an interesting body type. So he's 6'1", 282, but then has 34 and an 1/8 inch arms. Oof. Ridiculously long arms, and that's why he's a very good run defender at that size because he's strong as an ox and has length to control every block. So I think he's a safe bet to translate. He'd be a nice, old school, true 3-4 defensive end. I think that's what he could be at the next level. And I still think you've seen some development from him as a pass rusher, and he looked good in the one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl to where he can offer a little bit of that. It's not going to be his game, but he can offer a little bit of that at the next level.
Also an all-time wrestler in high school.
Yes.
If you want to get into the background. And I think you see that. I think you saw some really good reps between him and Creed Humphrey. He had some success at the Senior Bowl. I like him. Some notes here. Grady Rousseau just had a 30-inch vert.
Ooh.
That's
not good.
That is not good. All right. Milton Williams. We have not talked about Milton Williams enough. I love this guy's tape at Louisiana Tech, and then he goes on to the pro day and just puts on an absolute show.
Yeah, what he did down the stretch this year. So kind of started off slow at Louisiana Tech's past year, but the violence he played with, probably his last like 6 to 8 games, was scary. The guy gets off the line and just out for blood. And he is a not just elite athlete, he's a elite athlete. What's the step beyond elite? Special, generational, whatever you want to call it. This guy's different.
Fire.
Built different. 6'3", 284 pounds. He had a 4.6 740, 6'9", 6'3" cone, a 38.5-inch vertical, and did 34 bench press reps at 6'3", 284. That's Aaron Donald caliber pro day. Those are insane numbers. That guy is tailor-made to play 3-tech in a penetrating one-gap defense at the NFL level. And yeah, he was playing against lesser competition this past year at LA Tech. Did not get to go up against good offensive tackles. But he did actually face TCU's offensive line this past year. Not TCU's world beaters, but he faced a Power 5 offensive line, dominated them. 81.8 pass rushing grade in that game. Finished the year with a 90.8 overall grade. All he could do is beat the guy in front of you, and he did a lot. And there's another guy, so he got up to 80 there. He's put on like 60 pounds since he got to LA Tech, has grown a ton, added a lot of muscle. Interested to see, like an ascender. He's ascending. This guy could be, I'm interested to see where he's going to be in like a couple years.
Love to see that. All right, jumping now to Levi Onwuzurike, Washington defensive tackle.
Yes, Levi Onwuzurike, he just kind of never took the next step. He had a grade over 90 back in 2018, as I believe that was his sophomore year, in part-time role. The next season, full-time role, grade took a step back into the low 80s. Just not quite consistent. Still just gets by in the fact that he can get off the line really quickly. He's got a great first step, and he's agile, and that's kind of all he wins with, though. Unfortunately, just the consistency is his biggest con in the draft guide, to where that didn't get fixed at the Senior Bowl. It looked the exact same thing in the one-on-ones.
Senior Bowl was a huge opportunity for him, too, because he obviously opted out of the 2020 season. I thought, he dropped the most swear words of any prospect I've talked to on the interview. I don't know how that factors into his evaluation. How much better does he get, in your opinion? Because you talk about Milton Williams, who I think everyone would agree is an ascending player, a guy who's going to be a lot better in the NFL than he was even at Louisiana Tech. Levi Onwuzurike doesn't necessarily feel capped, but I'm interested to know like how much better Onwuzurike gets.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, to feel confident a guy's going to get better, you would like to seen him get better.
Yeah, true.
You know?
And that was that opportunity for him at Senior Bowl. If he goes to the Senior Bowl and whoops people's ass for 4 days or whatever it was, that is you're talking about a different, and people always like hate on the Senior Bowl, like heavily affecting stock. For guys that opted out of the 2020 season, that's a big opportunity. It's a big opportunity to show up and make some plays.
Yep.
All right, next guy here, one of my favorites in the class, Tyler Shelvin, the big boy out of LSU, the gumbo-eating monster from, I think, Shreveport, somewhere close. He's from Louisiana. I don't know exactly the city, but Tyler Shelvin, man, hashtag fun to watch.
So opts out of the 2020 season, like a few weeks before. Coach O throws him under the bus, saying he was 375 pounds before he opted out.
Same.
Which, honestly, at that weight, he probably should have opted out. He's very high risk when you're that.
No,
when you
very
weigh that
true.
much.
No, absolutely.
He should not be getting.
What was the
COVID.
study? CDC said that 76% of COVID-19 victims were either obese or
obesity was
age.
a massive factor. So good for him for opting out, but his weight control has been an issue. Like, that's the biggest thing with him. If he could play at a nice healthy 325, he'd probably be a second round pick at least in this draft class. But no one knows, because they've had to keep him in check at LSU. It's been a constant theme throughout his career, keeping that weight in check. But when he did, 2019, that run, 88.3 run defense grade, not moving that guy off the ball very often. He is, as just a pure nose tackle, feel confident that he's going to be able to stuff the run. Anything else, he had 6 pressures all year back in 2019. So I don't.
You're not going to ask him to get.
Not going to do much else. So
I think he ultimately goes probably round 3, round 4, if his weight hasn't completely blown up. I mean, there's that story about his aunt, or I think his grandma, really staying on him for the diet, and obviously Coach O being a big part of it as well. He would like come home from practice and eat an entire Little Caesars pizza. Like, this guy was an absolute unit and continues to be. I hope he can get under his weight though, because like when he's on the football field and he's in good shape, I mean, it's why he was a four-star, five-star recruit.
Yeah.
And LSU did everything in their power to get him on the football team.
Yeah.
I do think that it's worth the effort. If you have a coaching staff, or we talk about development all the time, if you're confident in the team you have to develop Tyler Shelvin to do it well, I mean, you're going to get a huge value in him if you can find ways to keep him under 330, 340 pounds. All right, next guy here, another like run stuffing guy, not to the same degree or size rather as Tyler Shelvin, but Tommy Togiai, one of my favorite interviews this offseason as well, and a guy that had a lot of success specifically playing the run at Ohio State.
Yeah, really broke out this past year, but only 291 snaps. We really haven't seen much from him. He was a backup prior to that. Ohio State had a few guys drafted, defensive tackle last season.
Devon Hamilton,
Jay Sean Cornell. But Togiai, great bull rusher, fairly quick, got a nice little spin move, but he's kind of just on the small end, doesn't have great length for the position, and it's like obvious on tape even he'll get locked up. But in a one-gap defense, like penetrating, he was the most impactful defender in that Clemson game, in that win over Clemson. And then low-key storyline of the national championship kind of got swept under the rug was he was a COVID close contact and ended up not being able to play in that national championship game, which obviously hurt them and any chance they had of beating Alabama. So I'm still a fan. You would have loved to have seen more of him against some better competition. Going against that Alabama line would have been really nice for his prospect profile.
Last one here, and a guy that's like been mocked up all around. There's a ton of different takes on this player. Davian Nixon, interior defensive lineman out of Iowa. I've seen him mocked as high as like 16, 17 in the first round. Then other people have him falling to like late day 2.
Yeah, playmaker, but not consistent defensive tackle. Like doesn't consistently take on blocks well. Really nimble feet for a DT. And there's some things to like about his game, but man, 63.1 run defense grade this past year, 66.7 pass rushing grade. The splash plays are nice, but there's not even outside the Northwestern games, the one game you point to where it's like, okay, he took over that game. But it's Northwestern's offensive line. When he goes up against real offensive lines, like better offensive lines like Wisconsin, you even had to throw Penn State in there. It's like it wasn't nearly as good.
Updated numbers from Miami's Pro Day. We're updating these live here. You have broad jumps for the following players. Brevin Jordan, 9'8". Not what I kind of wanted him to see. Clear 10. He did weigh in at 247 pounds, which I think was more than what people expected. Jalen Phillips, 10'5", with 21 reps on the bench. You knew that was coming.
Good numbers.
Quincy Roche, 9'11". Roche, 9'11". And then Gregor Rousseau, 9'7". Worst broad of all those guys.
Oh, what was he doing all offseason?
That was not what you wanted to see.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. 9'7" broad and a 30-inch vert. Fuck.
That's not good explosive numbers at all.
So Phillips had a 10'5" broad and a 36-inch vert.
Okay. That's good range.
Good range. All right. Jumping now to day 3 guys. I'll just read them off and then we go from there.
Yes. Oh, I gave you some hints here with the schools.
I knew the schools anyway. Okay. Jay Tufele, USC. Bobby Brown of Texas A&M, another big boy similar to Tyler Shelvin in that he's just going to be a people eater in the middle. Marlon Tuipulotu of USC. Kyrus Tonga, BYU. Jonathan Marshall of Arkansas. Quinton Bohanna, Kentucky. And then O'Brien Goodson of Memphis.
So I think Bobby Brown and of Texas A&M and Kyrus Tonga of BYU are kind of your nose tackle run stuffers in this draft class. Tonga has some crazy reps on his tape where he just runs with centers, but he really struggles to continually play low. If you watch the San Diego State tape, they ate his ass. They ate his lunch. They ate his ass too. They got after him. Like he was not an impact player in that game.
Sometimes you got to do it.
Struggles against double teams and just struggles to play low, a little stiff lower half. But power, like the strength in his upper body is pretty legit. Like he threw guys around. So he's an intriguing guy. I could see him going higher than we have him as day 3 guy. I could see him going somewhere on day 2. USC duo, people are higher on them than we are. They're just not super consistently impactful. I said the Marlon Tuipulotu after he made, Daniel Jeremiah's top 50. I was like, he watched the Utah game because the Utah game is what he did there was so different from any other game that he's put on tape this past year. Tufele was an opt-out in 2020. Just has really bad balance issues. Like
Tui
the guy's
Pelotu
on
is
the
not
ground a
in
lot.
Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 anymore.
Not in top
Not sure
50
if he turned on the Utah game or not. I think we've made the comparison to Tui Pelotu to Eddie Vanderdoes in the past, which I
Yes.
think is very similar.
And then the last guy I want to touch on here, O'Brien Goodson, fun to watch Hall of Famer. I'm inducting him.
Let's go.
He is 5'10", 276-pound nose tackle.
No,
Yes.
I haven't watched this guy.
He is fun to watch Hall of Famer. Incredible tape to watch. Recommend to anybody out there. Memphis defensive tackle, O'Brien Goodson. Quick as can be. I mean, lightning.
I mean,
off
you
the
have
ball.
to be if you're 5'10", 276 playing nose.
I don't
Low man
think he
wins.
makes it.
Tough to get lower than that.
Yeah. I don't think he hacks it in the NFL, but I want to see him get a chance. I want to see him in preseason at least.
At least. I will say we talk about a lot about positional value on this podcast, and you target positions of high value early. So on the other side of that, where I'm sprinting the card in or targeting on late day 2 and day 3 are these low positions. Like if you're telling me you can get a Bobby Brown on day 3, like that is what I want. I want to spend the draft capital on day 3 on those positions where you can get like, quality depth pieces at defensive tackle where you're not getting that at quarterback. You're not getting that at edge defender. Like I do think that interior defensive line, specifically the bigger nose tackle run stuffing types, like go get those guys late day 2, day 3. Go get linebackers late 2, specific off-ball linebackers late day 2, day 3. Box safeties in some areas.
There is a lot to be said for knowing when and where you can find talent.
Yeah.
You're not going to like edge rushers may look sweet in the 6th round. Those guys don't do anything. A DT though in the 5th, 6th round that can stuff the run, you might be able to find a lot. So those happen all the time.
And it comes back to, and you've mentioned this before, where the positions where elite athleticism isn't as pertinent or necessary for success in the NFL. Like you've said that about interior offensive line, interior defensive line, I think is similar. Is that what it is? Is that what has these guys fall, these productive players at those positions fall? Because you don't need to be an 11-foot broad, 40-inch vertical player to be talented or productive at those respective positions.
I think that's a big aspect of it. Yes.
Interesting. Very cool. Well, this was the defensive line overview. We also dived into the trades, obviously, at the top. Let's go ahead and jump now to interviews with 2 cornerbacks, Asante Samuel Jr. of Florida State and then Ifeatu Melifonwu of Syracuse. Now joining the 2-4 Drafts podcast is former Florida State cornerback Asante Samuel Jr. Asante, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with your pro day. How do you feel like that went? What was some of the feedback you got from coaches and evaluators down there? How was that pro day experience for you?
The pro day went good. The scout said I did an amazing job, but I felt like I could have did better on my vert and just bench press. I could have got a little bit more broad jump. I just felt like I could have did a little bit more, but all in all, they said it was a good showing.
Gotcha, man. And who were you training with before your pro day? And talk to me more about that process and how that went for you.
I was training with Brent Callaway, Exos in Dallas. Great facility, great people. And they got me right for the combine. I'm just thankful for being able to train there with them.
And have you had a lot of opportunities so far to talk to NFL teams or talk to evaluators and those things about your game and your role specifically in the NFL?
Yeah, well, I talked to literally 30 teams, so I get different feedback from different teams, and they tell me most of all just they like the way I play. I play with aggressiveness and natural instincts, and they just know I'm a real baller.
I think that's what stands out for me, man. I want to talk about your strengths. When PFF does a lot of obviously scouting and evaluating talent and those things. I think the biggest strength for you is you play with a lot of aggressiveness, you tackle very well, and you are a very physical cornerback despite being not like the biggest guy in this class. Obviously, you have other cornerbacks in this class standing 6'2", 210 pounds, but you play with that physical style. Do you feel like that is your biggest strength or your biggest or your instincts really your biggest strength in this class, or what do you feel like separates you from the other corners in this class?
I just feel like my ball production, I'm always near the ball, whether it's a forced fumble, fumble recovery, interception, pass deflection, just anything with the ball. I feel like I'm just a natural ball hawk.
That's good, man. Very cool. And I do think that, other people I've talked to also see that about your game, also see that ball hawking, mentality that you do play with. I'd be interested to know what weight did you play the season at this past year? I think at your pro day you weighed in around 180 pounds. Did you play at that weight this past season?
No, I played that around like 186, 187.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha, man. And I'd be interested to know more about kind of your preparation and what goes into a given game week for you at Florida State. You know, I'm sure a lot of film study, specifically playing the quarterback position, a lot of film study in those things. What exactly are you looking for on film when you're preparing for a certain opponent or a certain receiver?
When I'm looking on film, I'm looking for the types of formations they're doing, their tendencies, whether they like to go to the boundary or the field. I look at the down and distance in certain situations, and just trying to be a student of the game, just looking at every little detail, the wide receiver splits. I'll just try to find anything to separate myself from the opponent.
And how do you feel like that film preparation has kind of changed this offseason? Have you had a lot of opportunity to maybe watch film on yourself, watch film on NFL guys, NFL cornerbacks, or even NFL receivers? I know a lot of defensive backs, you know, entering this draft have watched some guys like Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins to kind of prepare themselves for the NFL. What have you been watching on film, you know, this offseason?
I've just been watching different schemes that teams like to run, what they like to run against certain defenses, and just how offenses are trying to attack the defenses in the NFL today, and just certain guys I watch like Odell, Stephon Diggs, and just certain receivers I watch, and just trying to prepare for the next level.
Gotcha. Do you feel like, I'd be interested to know, going back to, you know, the feedback that you received from teams, have teams talked about where they want to play you at the next level, outside corner, slot? I know you've had some reps at safety at Florida State, or do you kind of think you're going to be this moving chess piece, this versatile defensive back in the NFL?
Well, most of the teams I talk to, they want me to play outside, but most of them, they also want me to play inside too. So I feel like, just like you said, I'm a moving chess piece. Wherever they want to put me on, I'm sure I'll make plays. And I just feel comfortable wherever I'm at on the field.
You know, some of the best cornerbacks in the NFL play inside and outside because they're shadowing, you know, obviously opponents, you know, top receivers, and those receivers like Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, a lot of really talented receivers play a lot of snaps in the slot. I'd be interested to know, I've asked other cornerback prospects this as well, but there's some cornerback prospects that in their defense will play a side, play outside, or play one side of the field and play that through a game. And there's others that will shadow guys and have more opportunities to pick up tendencies from a specific receiver. Talk to me about the difference between playing those two types of roles in a defense and which one is necessarily easier, because Richard Sherman is kind of famous for playing one side, doesn't shadow a ton, and has the benefits of working the boundary and these different things, while Stephon Gilmore will shadow receivers, and sometimes that can be difficult playing in the slot, but you get that opportunity to understand a receiver and follow the same guy over and over.
Yeah, I feel like shadowing the guy is more definitely more competitive, and just stand on one side. It allows you to play to your strengths, but it also allows the offense to do whatever they want to do and get you on the number 2 receiver if you're supposed to be sticking to number 1. So it has its pros and cons, but I feel like shadowing is definitely more challenging. And but left and right, I mean, it's nothing bad about left and right, but I mean, if that's your scheme, that's your scheme. You got to do what the coach said. But
I'd be interested to know,
definitely shadowing.
You know, with that competitiveness, do you ever let that get out on the field? Do you ever talk a little trash? There's so much. I mean, the wide receiver cornerback matchup is just such a competitive role. It's like a game within a game, to where you almost have to get into the mental side of it. I know Marcus Peters talks a lot of trash. Richard Sherman talks a lot of trash. How do you approach that side of the game?
Oh, well, I talk a lot of trash. It depends who I'm playing against, really. If they're kind of quiet, I'll be locked in and focused. But if I have a guy that's talking the whole game, I'm gonna talk right with him, and we can talk until the game's over. We can talk after the game if you want to. But it doesn't really matter to me. But I like to talk a little trash. It keeps me energized, and it makes the game a little bit more fun.
I agree, man. I'm a big trash talking fan. I'm a huge fan of it. Who are some of the best receivers at talking trash that you've gone against in your college career?
I feel like Miami as a whole, they always talking a lot of trash about rivalry. But my boy Trayvon Grimes, he definitely is a trash talker. We went to the same high school, and we kind of like have a little chemistry. And
nice.
Yeah, so whenever we play each other, we always going at it the whole game. And just, that's, I feel like Trayvon Grimes is the most trash talking receiver I faced in my college career.
Taking that question just beyond trash talk, who are some of the best receivers you feel like you've gone against in your career?
I say Trayvon Grimes, Chase Claypool, De'Ami Brown. Those are the ones that stick out right now. I went against a lot of great receivers, but I can't really think of them right now. But those are the 3 that stick out right now.
Gotcha. Well, we can finish with this one, man. I really appreciate you setting aside the time. I'd love to know kind of what your motivation is to kind of continue to continue your NFL career or your football career into the NFL, and obviously make all the sacrifices that come with playing football at the collegiate level and then in the NFL. What is your motivation or your why behind playing football?
Well, my why, I've been playing football since I was 5 years old, and since I've been playing football, I just felt like my dream was to become an NFL player and play in the NFL for a long time. So I'm one step closer to that dream, and the feeling of me getting closer to that dream, I just feel like that kind of drives me a little bit more and pushes me a little bit harder. So I'm just thankful to be in this position, and I just want to thank God for everything He's doing for me.
Fantastic stuff, man. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck moving forward.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it for having me.
Now joining the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast is former Syracuse cornerback Ifeatu Melifonwu. Ifeatu, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Of course, man. I'd like to start with, what you've been up to this offseason. Obviously, you're preparing for a Syracuse Pro Day here soon. What have you been working on? How's it going?
So it's definitely been going well. I'm out in Tampa training with Yo Murphy Performance. Just working on everything really. Vert, 40, broad, everything I'm going to be doing at Pro Day I've been working on.
Nice, man. And when is that Pro Day for Syracuse?
It's actually a week from today. It's March 19th.
Oh, man, that's actually early. That's awesome, because I talked to some guys where they have theirs like April 9th, so they're going to have to stay in that like kind of peak performance shape for a lot longer. Obviously, you're not going to completely fall off the rails, but I'm sure you won't be doing a ton of eating out until after that Pro Day and getting everything done there. But so what weight did you play at this past season, and are you working to a new goal weight ahead of this Pro Day?
So I started the season at 213. So the first game UNC, I weighed in at 213, and then during the season you kind of gradually just drop down and weight a little bit. So I think I ended around like 208, but right now I'm kind of just working to be like around 210, like that area. I weighed in at the Senior Bowl at 212, so it's just somewhere really around there.
And talk more about that Senior Bowl experience. How awesome, how did that, what were some key takeaways you had from that Senior Bowl experience? Obviously working with NFL coaches and talking to a lot of talent evaluators there, working in the one-on-ones. What was that experience like, and what were some key takeaways for you?
Yeah, no, that was a very good experience, just going against the top guys in the country, and just meeting dudes from everywhere and getting the chance to get firsthand NFL coaching, a lot earlier than some of the dudes that didn't get invited. Some things I learned that it's really like a business. Everything moves fast. We have basically one day to learn everything. So it definitely moves fast, and you definitely got to be on the P's and Q's, and because everyone's good now at this next level. Everyone's good, so you got to be on top of your technique and everything like that.
And was there any specific feedback that you got from coaches or some of the evaluators that you talked to at the Senior Bowl that you feel like you want to implement this offseason or implement into your game in the NFL?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely need to work on like pad level and weight distribution. Just being a taller guy, staying low and my back pedal and press will help me move quicker and get in and out of breaks and transitions.
I think I'm glad you brought up the length and all that. 6'3", 210, like you said, really long arms. That's going to really help you in the NFL, and it's something that kind of PFF sees as one of your biggest strengths in this class. You have legit rare physical tools among other cornerbacks in this draft class. Do you feel like that is really what separates you in this draft class among the other cornerbacks, or do you feel like there's something else to your game that really sets you apart? Put the scouting hat on for me and tell me what you feel like is your best trait or what really is your strength.
I feel like that definitely sets me apart, just the length I have and the size. But I just feel like what sets me apart is I feel like I'm an all-around corner. Like, I tackle, I'm physical. I'm a willing tackler. Play man, good in man coverage, good in zone. I've had 2 different defensive coordinators, so I played in 2 different schemes. I've had 3 different corners coaches, so I've learned a lot of different things. So I feel like I'm really just well-rounded and do a lot of things well. And then on top of that, my athletic ability and, my size and speed and everything.
I'd love to hear more about kind of your process in a given game week at Syracuse, how you prepared for an upcoming opponent, specifically, a receiver or an offense. What were you looking for on film, and what were you working on in practice to kind of prepare each week? What does a normal game week look like for you?
Yeah, so about like Monday through Thursday, and a little bit at the hotel the night before. I watched a little bit of film, but Monday through Thursday is really when I watch most of my film. The first day I'll just watch, one or two games of the opponent, kind of get a feel for them, and then each day I'll break it down by formation, based down in distance and by formation. First day I might do 2x2. Next day I might do 3x1. Then the next day, Thursday, I'll do just like red zone and third down. So that's kind of my preparation and how I go into it. And then on top of that, after practice, if it's a game we're going to be playing a lot of cover 4 and I'm going to be playing a lot of off, I'll work 5-10 minutes after with the other corner, Garrett Williams, and we'll just do little stuff that we know we need to improve on, or we're going to be doing a lot in that game.
And how has that kind of film preparation changed this offseason? Are you watching a lot of film on yourself or film on NFL guys? Are you trying to like take game or kind of improve your own film and also look at guys in the NFL that maybe you want to pattern your game after?
Well, I feel like I always kind of watch different dudes in the NFL, and see if I could take things from their game. But I feel like mostly I'm kind of just rewatching my film and trying to critique myself and, work to improve different things.
Something I like to bring up a ton with cornerbacks specifically is this kind of game within a game, this chess match between, opposing receivers, because it's such a one-on-one position where you're having to kind of beat the same player or go up against the same player consistently. I feel like there's a mental side of it. You're talking trash a little bit, trying to get in their head, trying to predict tendencies, trying to pick up things pre-snap. How do you approach that, specifically? Do you like to get in their head? Do you like to play the mental side at all, talk some trash, or do you kind of stay quiet and kind of let the game come to you?
I feel like most of the time I stay quiet unless something's said to me or something that gets me fired up. But most of the time I really don't. I don't say anything.
Do you feel like that has a big factor though? Do you think it's it's the mental side of playing corner? Because you hear that cliche all the time, like you have to have a short memory, you're going to give up a lot of catches, like that kind of stuff. Like I feel like that mental aspect of it, of talking trash, can help you give edges. Do you feel like some cornerbacks or some receivers really try to lean on that to like have an edge in the game?
Yeah, definitely. It just really depends what type of guy you are. Sometimes talking trash and stuff, it helps you with your confidence, helps you play better. Other times, like me, sometimes not saying anything and staying quiet kind of just helps me, keep a level head and lock in. But there's definitely times I do get fired up, especially if he says something to me that I make a play. So it really just depends what type of guy you are.
I'd love to finish with this, Ifeatu, and I really appreciate the time. I'd be interested to hear kind of your motivation for pursuing the game at the level you are and making the sacrifices you do to play both at the collegiate level and obviously in the NFL. What is your motivation? What is your why to continue playing football at such a high level?
Yeah, so my why is definitely just the love for the game. I've been playing since I was 7, and I've loved it ever since. Just the competition with my brothers. Obviously, my brother being in the NFL, we just push each other. He pushes me to go harder. If I get a PBU, it should have been a pick. If I get a pick, it should have been a pick 6. So just things like that motivate me, and just my whole support system. My mom, my brothers, my family, and just trying to prove them right.
Awesome, man. I definitely appreciate that. I think the family is obviously super, super important. Like I said, really, we appreciate you setting aside the time, and I wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me.
Remember, leave a 5-star review with a question for the mailbag and then send me a screenshot of it. You're going to get a chance to win a free draft guide. Just go leave a 5-star review, send me a screenshot of it in Twitter on the DMs. They're open, wide open, to go get a free draft guide or get a chance to win a free draft guide. That's going to do it, though. Austin Gayle, Mike Quinn, David Sofaro, Mike Renner, 2-for-1 drafts.